For any nonprofit out there, you know that connecting with your donors is everything. It's the lifeblood of your mission. But what if you could make those connections smarter, more personal, and honestly, way more powerful? Well, that's exactly where donor segmentation comes in. In this explainer, we're going to break down how this one strategy can completely transform your fundraising and keep your supporters fired up for the long haul. So why is this so important right now? It really all comes down to one number, 62%. That's the percentage of nonprofit leaders who say donor retention is their #1 top priority. You heard that right. Just keeping the supporters you already have is the single biggest challenge they're facing. So here's the game plan. We'll start with that big retention problem, and then we'll introduce segmentation as the solution. We're going to break down the how-to into 2 simple layers, look at how to work smarter, and then wrap up with the huge impact this can have. Let's dive in. Okay, first up, the donor retention problem. We need to really understand what we're up against. This is the challenge that so many nonprofits are wrestling with day in and day out. It's not just about finding new donors all the time. It's about building relationships that actually last. And this quote right here, it just puts that 62% into perfect focus. It shows this isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers. It's a huge strategic shift. The whole sector is moving away from those one-off transactional donations and toward building real, sustainable, long-term relationships. So if retention is the problem, what's the solution? It's segmentation. This is all about a fundamental shift in how you communicate. You're moving away from just broadcasting one generic message to everybody and hoping for the best. And you're moving toward having actual, meaningful, tailored conversations with specific groups of your supporters. So what is it exactly? Well, at its core, donor segmentation is simply the practice of grouping your donors based on things they have in common. And the whole point, the ultimate goal, is to tailor your communication so it really resonates with them on a personal level. That is the foundation for building stronger, lasting relationships. I love this analogy because it just makes the whole concept click. Generic one-size-fits-all fundraising, that's like shouting your message through a megaphone into a crowded room and just hoping someone listens. Segmentation is about putting that megaphone down, walking over to someone, and starting a genuine conversation. All right, let's get into the how-to. We'll start with layer 1. And the great news is, this uses the foundational data that most nonprofits already have sitting in their database. This first step is all about understanding the who and the how much. The easiest, most straightforward place to start is with demographics. This just means grouping donors by things like their age, where they live, or their family status. It might sound basic, but it allows for some really powerful personalization. I mean, think about it. The message you send to a young professional in a big city should probably sound a little different than the one you send to a retiree in the suburbs, right? Okay, next, we can layer on their giving patterns. And this is where it gets really insightful. You can group people based on whether they're a one-time donor or a dedicated monthly supporter, or maybe by their average donation amount. This data helps you figure out their donor lifetime value, or DLV, which is just a super powerful way to see who our most valuable long-term supporters are likely to be. And that's really the crucial point here. Analyzing these patterns, the when, the how often, the how much, it isn't just a data exercise. It's about uncovering insights that let you strategically nurture those relationships and honestly take your entire fundraising approach to a whole new level. All right, we've covered the basics. Now let's move on to layer 2. This is where we dig a little deeper into the why and the when behind a donor support. This is where we really start to understand their behavior and what truly motivates them. First up is engagement. Who's that person that opens every single one of your emails, who always shows up to your events, who's sharing your posts on social media? Tracking these interactions lets you create different tiers of engagement. Your most engaged donors, they might get exclusive invites. The folks who are less engaged, maybe they get a more concise, impact-focused update to try and win them back. Next, we can get right to the heart of it, their motivations. Why do they give to you? You can find this out just by asking them in surveys or by analyzing their giving behavior. Then you can create these simple tags in your system like impact-driven or community-focused, which lets you speak directly to what they care about most. And in the end, it all comes down to this simple truth. When your communication shows a donor that you actually see them, that you understand their reasons for giving, they feel valued. And when people feel valued, they are so much more likely to stick around. So you have all this great data. Now what do you do with it? This section is all about working smarter, not harder. It's about putting the right tools and processes in place to make your segmentation strategy not just effective, but also sustainable for the long haul. So let's quickly clarify the two main types of data we're talking about. Demographic data tells you who your donors are, those static facts about them. Behavioral data, on the other hand, tells you what they do, their actions, their clicks, their attendance. And of course, the real magic happens when you start combining the two. This table gives a really great overview. Demographic data. That's the easy stuff to start with, but it gives you pretty limited insight. Behavioral data is much more powerful for predicting what people will do, but you have to be tracking it. And psychographic data, which gets into their values and lifestyle, that offers the deepest insights, but it can take more time to gather. As you can see, the best approach is almost always a layered one that combines these methods. Now remember, this isn't a set it and forget it kind of thing. Your donors' lives change, and so does their relationship with you. That's why having a simple review process is so key. Just schedule regular check-ins to see who's moving between segments, flag anyone who seems to be disengaging, and then refine your messaging. It keeps your strategy sharp and effective. Okay, let's bring this all together. All of these tactics, all of these data points, they all serve one ultimate purpose: to transform that raw data into genuinely stronger, more human relationships with the people who make your work possible.
So what's the big payoff? Well, it boosts engagement because your messages are actually relevant. It improves retention because your donors feel seen and understood. It drives better fundraising results because your appeals are targeted. And ultimately, all of this works together to maximize your mission's impact. It directly solves that 62% retention problem we started with.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. You don't have to overhaul your entire system overnight. Just based on what we've covered today, what is one simple, actionable segment you can create right now to start having a better, more personal conversation with your donors tomorrow?